So thank you. You are here to get an update on Research.gov. So just to introduce myself, my name is Stephanie Yee. I'm one of the project managers here at NSF, and I work very closely with our help desk. So that is the place that you call whenever you encounter IT help issues, but I also work very closely with our developers and with the policy office and people around NSF. As you may have heard yesterday, if you have ever received a direct communication from me, something terrible has happened with your proposal. All right, so for today, I've limited time. I have to share the stage with our good friends over here, and I'm trying to jam everything into 45 minutes, so I will go faster over some sections and slower over some of the ones I think you should take away. So I'm going to go over high-level NSF proposal preparations, some of the updates that have changed, but I'll also be speaking about it as if you are new. I'll go over, hopefully, most of the time over the demo, so you can see me going through some of the screens and clicking on some of the buttons, and you can see how this system works. I'll go over the new Foreign Financial Disclosure Report and some of the training resources for that when that comes open. And then I'll touch a little bit about Grants.gov proposal submission, how to check proposal statuses, and some of the other post-award things at the end of this slide. All right, let's just jump into it. Proposal preparation. Before you start on a proposal with Research.gov or Grants.gov, so I'm going to talk a little bit about account management requirements. In order for you to do business with NSF, you must have an NSF ID. So this is very easy. Anyone can create an NSF ID. There is a link when you log in. I can show you that, where you can register for an NSF ID. You can only have one NSF ID. It was some bad practices in the past where people, when they switch organizations or switch institutions, they would get a brand new NSF ID. Please don't do that. You have one NSF ID that will follow you for the rest of your career with NSF. So as you change, but in case you have multiple NSF IDs, you have to merge them and just pick one. If you are a new organization to NSF and you're trying to apply to NSF, before you register your organization with NSF, you must have a SciENcv registration. SciENcv is something that all institutions, all organizations that want to do business with NSF need to have a UEI number, and you need to have full registration and active registration with SciENcv. If you had an active registration with SciENcv and you let that lapse, you would not be able to submit a proposal to NSF. So this message is more towards the administrators here to just make sure that you are current with all your registrations. If you are a PI and you want to apply to NSF, you must, one, have an NSF ID, as I mentioned before, but you also must have a role, a PI role. So for each institution, there is an administrator that can grant roles to the people in your organization. You must request that role. It is not automatically given. So if you want to be a PI, you want to create proposals, you need to make sure you have that role. You request that PI role, and the administrator at your organization will either grant that or deny that role. So you must have an NSF PI role. If you are a Grants.gov submitter, you must have both a Grants.gov account and a Research.gov account. You have to have two accounts. It's not one or the other. You have to have both. All right. The last bullet here, if all of this flows out of your brain when you go to lunch, is that when you're applying for a proposal, I think it's really important that a lot of people do get trouble meeting the deadlines due to just account administration. Some people may not realize they may have multiple IDs, maybe their email addresses are not current, and that takes time to fix. So don't be that person on the last day of the deadline and you realize the email address that's associated with your account is no longer working. That could take a couple of business days to resolve. Or maybe you have multiple NSF IDs and you didn't realize it because you have a long career. You need to resolve that before you can submit your proposal, and that could take 3 business days to resolve. We have to make sure all the accounts and everything you've done with those NSF accounts are merged properly. So please do that. I would say weeks before your deadline, but we say at least 3 days before your deadline. All right, let's talk about time zones. So you heard earlier about time zones. This has become more important as we are more virtual instead of on location. And you might be wondering, well, what is my time zone? Is it correct? So we have added to your contact information when you log in to Research.gov, you have a link called My Profile, and in there you can find out what time zone your organization has. So remember, if you are working remotely, but your institution is located, the SciENcv address is located on the East Coast, you are beholden to the East Coast time zone. It is not where you are located. So if you are in California, you still have to submit by East Coast time. So the easiest way to do this, I will show this to you, is when you go to My Profile, choose the organization you're doing business with, and we have put time zone here. You cannot change this. This is related to what is in SciENcv, but sometimes it is wrong. So if that is the case, you have to call our NSF service desk, and we have to get that fixed for you. This is especially important if you're applying as a fellow. So fellow are individuals, right? They are not working for an institution. It is a person. Those are a little tricky because they don't have a SAM registration. They're an individual person. Once a fellow registers for NSF, that address stays frozen in time. You cannot change it because there's no SciENcv, right? You have to call NSF service desk to fix that. That could take a couple business days. So if you're a fellow and you have moved around in your career, maybe you're from California and you moved to the East Coast, that address stayed at California when you first registered, so you have to call us to change that. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about proposal preparation and some of the features. So this slide is something I always show to people who are new to NSF or new to Research.gov. Some of you legacy users, experienced users may remember Fastlane. This was our system we had for several decades. But we're now in Research.gov, and these are things I like to highlight that are better than the old system. We're trying to move away from the giant document help guides. We're trying to embed these blue eye info buttons. So this is in any section in Research.gov, look for the blue eye info button. If you hover your mouse over it, it'll give you very useful information about that section. You don't have to look it up in a document. We also put a relevant PAPG chapters, depending on the section you're in, so it will alleviate, again, the need for you to look it up. We will give it to you. Also, the compliance checking is very strong in Research.gov. We're doing over 200 compliance checks across multiple proposal types and sections. All right, so this is just a really quick summary. Jean already went over all of these, but this is just an idea of what to look for whenever you're in the system. So I'll be going over some of these in my demonstration today. As you can see, some of the updates. All right, so for my demo, I'm just going to touch on simple proposal preparation and some of the compliance errors and warnings, some of the senior key personnel documents and the changes in that section from the 24-1, and some features of the budget. So I'm going to pause here and switch my screen. All right, so you're looking at Research.gov. This is production. Just want to highlight this to you. Everyone, this should be very familiar to you. I'm going to go ahead and click on sign in. So if you notice, there's 3 different ways to sign into Research.gov. You have an NSF ID, your organizational credentials. So if your organization is part of the InCommon Federation, you will have an option here to log in with your organizational credentials, or login.gov. If you are completely new to NSF, get an NSF ID first. You have to get that ID, you have to get your profile set up. You can click here to register for an ID. Some of you may have noticed our NSF IDs now have alphanumeric characters in them. They used to be all numbers, and now you might see some letters, and that's because we're running out of numbers. So that actually has become a question because people did not recognize letters in the NSF ID. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. All right, I'm going to make this a little bigger. So I'm here and I'm just gonna go ahead and highlight for everyone. As long as you have an NSF ID, you have access to our Research.gov demonstration site. This is a way for you to be able to create a proposal, kind of play around with different solicitations and check your proposal for different validations without actually starting a proposal. Yes, there's a question?
Yes. Hi, good morning. In order to create a new account, I see you have to put your email address. If you're changing, like, what is a recommended email address you would use, like your personal ID if you're changing from institutions, or like a...
I recommend that you use an email address that you will have access to regardless of which employer you have. So for myself, I actually use a personal address for my primary account. So when you forget your password, the password reset emails will go to that account. It won't go to a university account. You can have more than one email address associated with your profile. So if you work for 2 companies, or maybe you work for an organization and a company, they have their own emails. So I recommend using a personal email just for the forget password type of situation. Thank you. That's a good question. All right. So actually, let me go back. I clicked on prepare proposal. I don't want to prepare one. I'm going to show you the demo site. So everyone has access to the demo site. You don't need a PI role. You need a PI role to be able to create a proposal. You will know this because if you go here, the button will be grayed out. You're like, oh no, I can't create a proposal. That is because you don't have a PI role for your organization. I'm going to stick with the demonstration site because that is open to everyone. All right, and then there's a lot of warnings to make sure you know where you are. So our demonstration site is a little limited. It's only for proposal preparation, so we don't have a submission button here. I'm going to go ahead and click Prepare New. When you click here, you will see all the types of new things you can submit to NSF. So it's not just proposals. You can submit letters of intent, prelim proposals, accomplished-based renewals. There's a lot of things you can prepare. I'm going to stick with the full proposal. Now, this modal will pop up for me, but it's not going to pop up for most of you. If you belong to more than one organization, perhaps you work for 2 universities, or maybe you work for a university and you're a fellow, you will have this modal, and you have to select which organization you want to proceed preparing this proposal with. Am I going to prepare a proposal as a fellow? I'm going to apply as an individual, or am I going to apply with my organization? So we have a 4-step wizard before you create your proposal. The very first thing we're going to ask you is, what are you applying to? Everything in this list are active solicitations or active opportunities, PDs. You can search by keyword. You can search by number. The list will filter. I'm just going to select a basic 24-1. Step 2 is where to apply. This is where your proposal is going to. For most solicitations, you cannot choose where this goes. It will be hard-coded because it only goes to one program. For 24-1, of course, it's a more generic. You can select which program. So I'm going to go ahead and select random programs here. This is where the proposal is going. Step 3 is proposal types. So you saw yesterday all the different proposal types that NSF offers. This is where you would select that. Most people will be using basic research, but of course, these are the other types. You may notice that there are types that are grayed out. That is because that is not eligible for that type of opportunity or solicitation. So for example, if you selected another one, let's say fellowship, the other buttons are grayed out too. So there's not a way for you to accidentally select a proposal type, but that's not appropriate. Step 4 is proposal details. Here we're going to ask you, are you submitting as a single proposal, or are you submitting as a set with others? So single proposal with or without subawards, or separately submitted. If you are separately submitted, you have to choose now if you're going to be the lead or the non-lead. You cannot change this after this step. So just be wary that there are things from this wizard that you cannot change after the fact. And I'll explain a little bit more why as we go in. I created my temporary proposal. It's a very high level. Everything I answered in steps 1 through 4 appear at the top. My title, my funding opportunity, my proposal type. The only thing you can change at this point is the title. You can't change your funding opportunity. You can't change the collaboration type. That is on purpose because we build a lot of our validations depending on what you chose. Different solicitations, different proposal types have different business rules. We don't want a situation where you start building a proposal with compliance from, rules from set A, and then you change it to set B. So this is more for your benefit. At the bottom, we have proposal actions. We did add a new button called, it's not new, maybe, I would say younger than 2 years. Check errors and warnings. This is an easy way. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. This will tell me everything I need to fill in, I need to do before I can submit my proposal. This is a very easy click for anyone, PI, administrators, etc., other authorized users to be able to see what they need to fix. All of these are hyperlinks, so you can actually click on it and go straight to that section to fix it. All right, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Some changes for most recent for PEPG. I'll just click very briefly on the cover sheet. So the cover sheet is what it sounds, the cover sheet. We have very clearly indicated things that you need to fill in. This is not very controversial, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to the end. So at the bottom is what I call the other information section. These are the checkboxes that we alluded to in the sessions today and yesterday of things that you may or may not want to check on your proposal. I want to check some of these to kind of show you these can be dynamic. So for example, beginning investigator is only for biological sciences. It's just a regular checkbox. But if you check on human subjects, you will see the form will refresh with new questions for you to answer. So just make sure that as you check these checkboxes at the bottom that there isn't another prompt for you to answer more questions. And of course, we have this new checkbox at the bottom for the tribal nations. Okay, I'm going to jump out of the cover sheet and I'm going to touch upon managed senior personnel just a little bit. So right now in Research.gov, only the PI can create the proposal. Administrative staff, AORs cannot create a proposal. This has to be done by the PI or a person that has a PI role. Here is where you can add other co-PIs or other senior key personnel. And go ahead and click Add co-PI. So for co-PIs, you must have a couple of things. You must have an NSF ID. You must have a PI role with that organization. I'll go ahead and add my friend here. So Alan Alphaman pops up, so I would like to add this person as a co-PI. If you are on this screen and you're trying to add a co-PI and nobody shows up, you enter their number, you're entering their email address, no one pops up, a couple things may have happened. One is that person may have received a PI role just recently. Whenever you give roles, take roles away, it takes at least 30 minutes for that role to propagate through the system. So don't wait till deadline day to try to assign your AOR, because that AOR would not be able to see that button until at least 30 minutes after that role was approved. So not just you have to request a role, you have to have that role approved. So build that into your time frame. And they must have the role. All right. So I know there's some situations where you may have to swap the roles of the PI. So let's say I create the proposal, Stephanie, but I actually want Alan Alphaman to be the real PI. You can swap and change roles. So if I click on change role, I can actually assign Alan as the new PI. So what that's going to do is put Alan at the top of the cover sheet as the core PI, and then I will be listed as co-PI. Another question I get is, my button is grayed out, I can't swap PIs. The reason is you must have a PI role, so you can't swap it with a senior personnel, and you must be from the same organization. So you could have a PI role person on your proposal, but they're from actually another institution. You can't swap. Other senior key personnel, you can add them by NSF ID, but you could also add them by name. So these people do not need NSF IDs. They do not need special roles. So I'll go ahead and add John Smith as my other senior key personnel. This is the screen where all my core people are, and what I mean by that is they are all required to have the senior personnel documents. It's a good segue to go into senior personnel documents, but I'm going to show you one other role at the bottom here. You might see something called Other Authorized User. This is somebody who's not a co-PI or PI or senior key personnel. They are people who can work on your proposal. They must have an NSF ID. This is not something you could just assign to someone random on the street. They have to have an NSF ID. They need to have an Other Authorized User role for your organization to work on this proposal. All right, I'm going to jump into senior key personnel. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse all. So everyone I added in the previous screen, they're now listed here. I expand all. I need to upload these 4 documents for each person. I need biographical sketch, current and pending other support, collaborators and other affiliations, and synergistic activities. So we all know the requirements about the first 2. You must develop this document in SciENcv. It will not accept any formats other than 24-1. So if you have a 23-1, you have to go back to SciENcv and get a new version and recertify that. Some of the most common questions or issues I'm seeing at the help desk on these 2 sections are that people are altering, either intentional or not intentional, the file that they get from SciENcv. The most common thing I see is, people love to rename the file. When they do that, they sometimes inadvertently open it in an application. And when that application resaves that PDF, it will overwrite some of the metadata, the signatures that we are looking for. So just be careful about that. You as an administrator may not realize the document has been changed in that way. So that's why I highly encourage people, if I had to pick which sections for you to work on first in terms of compliance checking, are BioSketch, current pending other support, and the project description. Those are the sections that give people the most problems. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to collaborators and other affiliations. So this is also required for everyone. This is how NSF identifies conflicts. This is the only section in Research.gov in your proposal preparation that accepts a file that's not a PDF. This must be a Microsoft Excel document. If you do modify the document in other forms such as Google Sheets, it will override some of the code inside it. It's not pretty, but it is what it is. So just please make sure you build enough time to make sure this document uploads correctly. Oh. All right. What am I doing on time? All right, I'm going to go back here. Are there any questions so far? I'm going to jump into the budget because we have made a change on 24-1 about the mentoring plan. So this is the budget. It's a big form. Anybody that I've added is going to be automatically added under Section A. If someone is not taking a salary, you can remove them from the budget. So I'm going to go ahead and remove Alan, and he will be removed from the budget. I can't leave someone on here and just have all zeros. So you either remove them from the budget or they have to have at least $1. So if you notice in Section B, it's called Other Personnel. So if you have anything greater than a 0 for postdoc scholars or graduate students, our system's going to know to check for the mentoring plan. So I'll go ahead and click Save. Oh, went too far. When I check errors and warnings, I'm going to get an error about the mentoring plan. And then if I click on it, I can go here and upload and fix that issue. All right. That is actually all I wanted to show you in the proposal preparation, unless someone wanted to bring up a question. So I highly recommend, you'll probably hear this being advertised throughout the conference. There is going to be a career webinar, technical webinar, where I go more into detail about each section. Even if you're not applying for a career solicitation, maybe something else, it would be very useful for any new time PIs to see that session. All right. Some other things I want to show you that's not related to proposal preparation is the new Foreign Financial Disclosure Report. So this is only going to be available to people that have that role. Yes, Sam.
Hello, Stephanie. Can I ask you to say again who creates the proposal? Is it the PI? Is it a delegate? Can you say again who actually creates it?
Only a person with the PI role creates the proposal. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone in the room that are admins for their organization? They accept roles? All right. All right. So you've heard about this new Foreign Financial Disclosure Report. On May 20th, what we rolled out, just to alleviate everyone having to go out to sign this role, we automatically gave all AORs at each organization the Foreign Financial Disclosure Report. I understand that the AORs are not always the person that's going to be doing this report, and some of the larger institutions may have many AORs that are not going to be doing this task. So I'm going to show really quickly for admin staff how to quickly identify people with this role, and if you may want to remove it, I'll just show you that really quickly. I'm an admin for NSF, so I'm going to go click on my profile, and I'm going to click View My Users. So here I have a lot of users. To filter results, just do FFDR, say show 50. This will automatically filter your list of anyone with an FFDR role, and you can go ahead and remove the role when you need to. So all you have to do is click Manage Roles and unclick that. I highly recommend that all the administrators go ahead and clean up your roles before any notification starts going out. All right. I'm going to go ahead and jump back to the PowerPoint presentation unless there's more questions. All right. So the Foreign Financial Disclosure Report, I touched upon that really quickly. Jean went over the timelines of what you need to expect. The slides do have a sample of what the email will look like if you are eligible to be doing a report this year. So anyone that has a new award or funding amendment between May 20th and June 30th will receive an email, and the email will look like this. I know the font's really small, but in the documents, you will be receiving this on July 1st. We will be sending reminder emails before the deadline, and they'll be mostly sent in August. So I have all those dates there. So I mentioned before, everyone can see the link, but you will have a lockbox. If you're not an FFDR role for your organization, only people with that role will be able to click on that. And again, we'll be having a more in-depth demo on July 9th. The registration link will be available June 17th, so please look out for that. We post those on the advisory section on Research.gov. It's going to be at the top in the advisory banner. All right, Grants.gov. Who here uses Grants.gov or thinking about it? All right, I have some stuff for you. All right, so in the last year, we have beefed up our Grants.gov integration. I just want to, if you take anything away from this, Grants.gov is not NSF. I know it's a little confusing because Grants.gov and Research.gov sound a little generic to someone who's not used to us, but Grants.gov is a federal agency that basically passes the proposal to us, or passes the proposal to Research.gov. We have put these links on Research.gov to give you very clear understanding of what journey that proposal goes through, so there's no questions about what to expect. And that's more on the next slide. So the next slide here, again, very small font, but I just want to show you this graph. The proposal goes into Grants.gov. It has to go through pre-checks and post-checks. We're checking for a lot of things. Just because Grants.gov accepts that proposal doesn't mean NSF is going to accept that proposal. The biggest mistake I see are people see the Grants.gov success email and they think they're done and they go on with their lives, but they don't realize they have failed maybe a pre-check or a post-check, or something needs to be corrected. If a proposal passes pre-check but fails post-checked, you have to correct that proposal in Research.gov. What happens is the proposal will come in. If it fails a section, maybe you forgot broader impacts. You have to go to, it now lives in Research.gov as an unsubmitted proposal. You have to go to Research.gov to fix that. So just have the expectation that if you do go this route, you may have to, this proposal will have to be touched in two different systems, Grants.gov and Research.gov. And remember, the proposal needs to be at NSF 5 p.m. local submitters time. That means it has to pass through Grants.gov and through Research.gov. All right, so these are just all the information. If you still want to submit there, you would receive at least 4 emails that will tell you what happened to that proposal. All right, this last slide, this section here is for everyone, regardless of what you do. When you submit a proposal to NSF, there's a lot of processing that goes with it. I would not sleep at night until I go in to Research.gov, I go to proposal status, and if I see that proposal there with a proposal number, the proposal is with NSF. If you go here and you don't see it, we do not have it at NSF. So no matter what, the next day after you submit a proposal, please go in and check proposal status. So when you log in, it's a link under the proposal section. It's the very last link. All right, I'm doing good time. All right, NSF Project Reports. Just a reminder, project report season is upon us. So a lot for NSF, most of the project reports are due between the months of May and the month of August. So this is a busy time for a lot of PIs and potentially a busy time for administrators too. I like to bring this up because summertime is also a very busy time for proposals. So this is just more of an awareness for you in terms of what to expect in terms of technical support. We have a very strong NSF service desk that answers the phones. But in the June, July timeframe, it's very busy. And it's busy not just because of proposal deadlines, but it's busy because of project reports. And project reports are very important, and they can take a little bit more effort to try to fix. Some things that some of you may encounter, especially the legacy administrators, are that this is the first reporting period where you don't have Fastlane. So if you take your memory back, we turned off Fastlane last January. And this would be the first time people wouldn't have, so we turned it off in January, but we left it open for people to download any proposals from Fastlane until September. This will be the first summer where you won't be able to find that Fastlane proposal. What I'm finding is that some people in preparation of writing their project reports, they want a copy of that Fastlane proposal, which they cannot access anymore. So just be aware of that. If you need to have a copy of that, please reach out to us to see what could be done. But hopefully everyone has downloaded a copy before Fastlane went away. The third bullet is, whoops, I forgot to download it. I still need a copy of my proposal. You can still request it, but it has to go through a FOIA request. And that does take time. We have to verify who you are, why you're looking for it. It also depends how old the proposal is. If you're looking for something from 1999, that might be more challenging. All right, the rest of these slides, I'll just go really quickly over. We have lots of demonstration sites on Research.gov. So if you're new to NSF, we have a proposal preparation demo site. We have a project report demo site. We have a supplemental funding demo site. So there's a lot of resources here for people who are new or who want to know how to use the system. We also have a pretty big proposal preparation and submission page. Resource. They're broken out by sections, broken out by proposal types, and we also have lots of quick help guides in there. This one is more of interest for PIs. So some of you who are more in the mathematics, physics world, you are LaTeX users. So that means you're not using your standard Microsoft Word to develop your documents. This is a more challenging group, is a challenging way to troubleshoot these documents. So we have implemented a GitHub site just for LaTeX users. So really quickly, account management. So I mentioned the NSF ID. You only should have one, but a lot of times people think of it as one NSF ID for PIs, one NSF ID for AORs. But we're also trying to get this for reviewers. So if you are a reviewer for NSF, we would like to have you to have an NSF ID. If you're a panelist, if you're a GRP fellow. So we're really making a lot of changes in terms of the accounts. So if you are doing any business literally with NSF, we want you to have an NSF ID. What this means is there's hopefully a lot more enhancements, especially in the realm of reviewers. So internally, this is more of our internal interest. We are changing the major system we are using to do reviews, to do panels. But I think the one thing that's most exciting is this last bullet here is how do I volunteer to become a reviewer? Up until this point, a lot of people have to contact someone at NSF, a lot of offline methods to try to volunteer to be a reviewer. We will soon implement, and it's not there yet, is that once you have an NSF ID, you can actually put yourself as on the list to be a reviewer for NSF through Research.gov. So you don't have to do, and hopefully over time, this will be the standardized ways for people to volunteer to be a reviewer. Yes, there's a question.
Yes, what's the difference between NSF ID and ORCID?
So NSF ID is an ID just for NSF.
Okay, so ORCID will not work there.
You can link an ORCID to your NSF ID if you choose to, but it's optional because we know that not everyone has an ORCID ID.
Okay, thanks.
So think of it as it's the way for you to log into Research.gov. And if you're an administrator, you're not going to have an ORCID ID. That's only applicable to PIs, and it's not applicable to all PIs. So ORCID IDs is something that can be linked to your NSF profile, but it's not a requirement. Any other questions? Oh, sorry. All right, here's our resources. All right, ask early, ask often. So our NSF service desk has pretty generous hours. We want to make sure we hit as many time zones as we possibly can. So please contact us. Don't wait till the last minute, especially if you have a deadline. Please call, open a ticket. Don't wait till the last minute. All right. And these are some of the contact information that you would need. All right, I'm going to switch it over to Bart.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Can I ask you a question?
There we go. Yeah, are there any questions before we move on to SciENcv?
Yes.
There's one over there.
So on slide 25, you cross out the last option, submitted and updated. But when you go there, you can also check the status of your proposal, and it's different from the status bar, the first one. Can you explain it why?
So the proposal status that's a good question. One has all proposals, regardless if you submit it in Fastlane, in Research.gov, in Grants.gov. And it has slightly different information. It's purely on a status, the proposal status I'm talking about. The other proposal status are only Research.gov submitted proposals. So it's a smaller subset of those proposals. So one proposal status is all proposals, regardless of which system that you submitted in. The other is only Research.gov proposals, and they have different statuses. I know it's very confusing.
I'm talking about the same proposal. Let's say I submitted at Research.gov, and if I go to proposal status and all over there on the right, it shows different status for the same proposal.
That is true. I would say it gives different information. The proposal status while you're preparing a proposal helps, it's only showing you statuses that's relevant to whether or not you can make changes to it. So when you submit proposals to NSF, you do have opportunities to make changes to it. On the proposal preparation and proposal status, it's going to show you statuses that's relevant to whether or not you can make changes anymore. Once the proposal is assigned to a reviewer, once the proposal is assigned to a panel, you can't make changes anymore. So those statuses will only speak to that. So the status might say, submitted but assigned to reviewers. That's not a real proposal status, meaning, awarded, declined, right? It's giving you a status, I would say maybe a little bit more merit review focused versus the other one is like true proposal statuses. But that's a good question. That's something I think is confusing because they're both called proposal statuses, but they do show slightly different things. But the easiest thing I could say is the one in the proposal preparation proposal status is more related to whether or not you can make edits to that proposal.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, thank you for your presentation today. I have a question with regards to the proposal summary submission within the application.
Yes.
I almost always get asked for help. I'm a grants administrator. And it's because something in the formatting of the project summary doesn't allow for it to upload. And often it's something as simple as taking a space out or unbolding the sections that you're looking for. Is that just us or is that with everybody?
Oh, no. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Research.gov does 200 compliance checks. We are checking for formatting. We are checking for headers. So project summary and project description are your largest sections, right? It's the sections with the most text. We are checking for headers. So if you remember, there are required headers for each of those sections. You have to have them spelled correctly. They have to be on their own line with no other text on them. We're checking for line spacing. You can't be scrunching all your text, all close together and it's hard to read. They have to be a certain amount of lines per inch. So we're checking for those items. And if we detect, a spacing is too tight, we will let you know to fix that.
Well, it's weird because I've often showed one example of one PI's project summary and compare it to another PI's project summary. And the changes are identical, but one will get uploaded and I'm able to upload it or they're able to upload it and one isn't. So it's like...
Yes. I would say there's many reasons why a file will have a problem uploading. That's why you should call our service desk so we can look at the file. It could be as simple as the file you use to save that file. So remember, a PDF is not just one type, right? Okay. You can use a browser to create a PDF, Word, Microsoft Word. You can use all these a huge variety of software that can create a PDF. Some of those are not compatible with our system, and we can't read that file. So it kind of depends on how that file was produced is the short answer.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. I just have another question. It's similar to that question. I use LaTeX, and I noticed that there's 3 files on LaTeX. Am I assuming that the 3 files have the same format, or there's one in particular one?
No, yes. So for LaTeX users, my understanding is there's many packages that you can choose from, and they may be different reasons why you would choose it depending on your discipline. So someone from physics may prefer a certain package over mathematics, right? So what we've done with NSF volunteer program officers is they gave me a good sampling of what a physics person might use versus mathematics, and they put them up there so you can choose which package might be best for you. So that's how the 3 was identified. They're just a diverse package.
But in terms, for example, what the lady mentioned about the spacing, everything is being consistent across the 3 of them?
Yes, so the LaTeX samples have been tested for line spacing and required headers, and everything should be good. If anyone finds an issue with the LaTeX files, contact me, and we will update that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Bart Trawick. I run the SciENcv program. I'm joined up here by Sherri Bailey. She's our customer success manager. So for those of you that are following online, Sherri is monitoring the Q&A section, so you can feel free to put in your questions and she'll answer it as we go along. Now, I want you to think back to about the middle of Stephanie's demonstration when she said, these are the two documents that I think you should work on now, the biographical sketch and the current and pending other support. She recommended you do those early and get them submitted in to make sure everything is fine and working in the system. So we're going to look at SciENcv, and this is where you actually create those documents and generate them and then put them into Research.gov. So we're going to look at how do I get to SciENcv, how do you access it, how do you start working with it. There were new forms that were updated just recently. In April, the 24-1 forms came along, and then they became mandatory in May. So we'll look at what was the difference between those two types of forms that came up. We're going to look at how you certify those documents in SciENcv, how a delegate can help with that process of getting these documents filled out. And finally, we had a question about ORCID. ORCID is integrated with SciENcv, and I'm going to talk about what the advantages are there and how an ORCID account can help you fill these forms out faster and get information into it. So at the heart of it, SciENcv is a web application. It helps you fill out those two documents that we were just talking about, the biographical sketch and the financial support forms, which are also known as current and pending other support. Now, I know all of us at some point in our lives, you have that conversation with your parents when they ask you, like, what do you actually work on? So what I tell them, we've just gotten through tax season, and you can think of SciENcv kind of like these tax preparation software, right? Maybe you use H&R Block or Free Tax USA or TurboTax, one of those applications to kind of fill your information in. The government wants information from you. They want it in a PDF. There's a web application that helps you fill this out very quickly. It can pull in information. Many of these systems, it has your old tax return in it. You come in the new tax year, you can pull information from your old form into your new form. SciENcv, same kind of concept. Web interface helps you pull in information and makes these PDF documents that then you go to Research.gov and submit them as part of your proposal application. You can have as many biographical sketches, as many current and pending support documents as you wish. We know that some investigators will have multiple types of grant applications. They might want to create a biographical sketch that focuses on their basic science application. And they might be going after a different award that is more applied science, and they might want to highlight a different facet of their expertise and research interest for that application. So you can have as many of these as you want. You can save the old ones. You can update them to new ones. You can output these PDF documents on demand. We have a button. When you fill everything out, you click Download PDF. It generates it for you. If you see that there's something that you want to correct, you just go right back to the interface, make the correction, and download the PDF again. And finally, delegates are also part of SciENcv. So you can, if you have someone that helps manage this information from you, and I know we've had a few delegates come up to us over the past couple of days, they can assist with this process to fill out all of the information. At the end of the day, when you have to certify the final version for submission to Research.gov, the PI will do that step. Stephanie was talking about the Research.gov ID. And yes, you can sign in to SciENcv with that very same set of credentials. So if you've registered for a Research.gov account, you can use that to sign into SciENcv. I'm showing a link to the SciENcv homepage there with the QR code. If you click on the NSF button, it takes you right over to Research.gov, and you will authenticate using your Research.gov credentials. There are over 4,000 other options. You're not limited to just Research.gov, and you can link these other sign-in authentication pathways to your SciENcv account. Many universities use an in-common sign-in. So if you're at, say, Notre Dame or University of Wisconsin, you can link that account to SciENcv in addition to Research.gov. And then you can enter your SciENcv account through either of those doorways. So I tell people it's like adding an extra door onto your home. You can get in through either of those. All right, so let's look at the updated forms that we just went through. In SciENcv right now, if you've had forms created earlier this year that were of the 23-1 variety, you'll be able to see those on your Manage Document page. If you have PDFs that you've already downloaded onto your computer, if you open those up and you look at the footer, you'll see exactly what version you have. Is it a 23-1 or a 24-1? Research.gov, when you try to submit these documents, as of today, it's only going to take a 24-1 document. So if you try to put a 23-1 in by mistake, you're going to get an error, but it's very easy to go back to SciENcv and update that form to the new version. So in the current and pending other support form, the changes were mainly to the text, the privacy statement, and an additional change was the proposals and active project summary section. Now you're required to have at least one entry in there. But otherwise, the forms were very similar from 23-1 to 24-1 besides those language changes. And what we did when we crossed over from the 23-1 to the 24-1, we automatically updated all of the 23-1 current and pending other support forms into the 24-1 format. So without any additional action on your PI's behalf, those forms got updated. So if the PI goes in, they download that form again, it's now being downloaded and certified in the 24-1 format, ready to go over to Research.gov. The biographical sketch, they had a few more changes. But same thing, if you go into SciENcv, if you have a 23-1 version of the biographical sketch, you'll see it on the Manage Documents page. It's very clearly outlined. If you open up the PDFs, you'll see a 23-1 versus a 24-1. Now, unlike the current and pending support form, which we automatically updated for everyone, the biographical sketch, you have to update that on your own. And we tried to make it as easy as possible. So if you open up a 23-1 form, you'll see at the very top, this is the outdated version. There's a link. Click on that link. We'll pull everything into that 23-1 form into the 24-1 format. And you're ready to go. You can change anything in that new form, certify it, download it, and send it over to Research.gov. So why did we not update the biographical sketch automatically? And that is because with the new common forms that NSF has begun to adopt, the synergistic activities section, which is in the 23-1, it is not in the 24-1. That section went away. It is being collected in a different part of the application at NSF, so we didn't want to just throw the data out. So we left the 23-1 form there. You can still access what you've had filled out in those earlier forms and then use it for your application. So we've left all the 23-1 forms there. We've made it extremely easy to update it into the 24-1 format with one click on the format. All right, so certifying these documents is one of the big steps that PIs have to do, and it's built right into SciENcv. So when the PI is in SciENcv, they filled the form out, or perhaps the delegate has filled it out for them, and they're ready to download it. There's a download button there. They simply click on it. The system will generate the PDF on demand after they certify it. And when they click on that PDF, a little modal dialog will pop up saying that they certify that everything is correct, that they're not party to a malign foreign talent recruitment program, et cetera, and they agree to that page, and then we generate the PDF on demand and put that certification into the PDF itself. At that point, it's ready to be submitted to Research.gov. You don't have to worry about lines per inch. You heard that earlier. You don't have to worry about the margins. Everything is formatted so that it will perfectly go in to Research.gov. So it kind of removes all that administrative burden for you. So we did have a question earlier today about how do we add a delegate? How can a delegate help manage these documents? So when a PI has come into SciENcv, they've authenticated in, maybe they've used their Research.gov credentials and they've signed into the system. If they click on the upper right of any page in SciENcv, it'll show their login. This will give them some options, and account settings is the one that they want to click. When they go into account settings, there's a delegates section. And if they already have some delegates assigned, they'll see them there. If they want to add an additional delegate, they click on that link, and then they enter the contact information for the delegate. The system will send an email to that individual. They come to SciENcv, they sign in. If they have Research.gov, they can sign in through that or any of the other options to access SciENcv. And once they've signed in, now that delegate is linked to the PI, and they can go in and help manage that information and get the forms filled out and set up and ready for the PI to certify it. So the delegate, they'll have their own SciENcv account. They can fill out their own biosketches if they want, but they will see a link for the PI that they're associated with. And they might help out several PIs. A delegate can help out dozens. You might have one person that manages it for the whole department, and they'll have a link for each of those. They'll step in to that individual's account, and they'll be able to fill this out. They can see all of the documents that are in that account. They can work on any of those documents. There's a banner at the top saying that you're working as a delegate for this individual, so you'll know that you're in the PI's document, filling it out for them. And then when they're ready to create the PDF, they can inform the PI that everything's set up. You can come and certify it. Now, we do love to get feedback. How can we make SciENcv better to adapt to your workflow? And one of the things that we heard was delegates were telling us, you know, I think I have everything filled out, but I want to see what that PDF looks like before I ask my PI to come and sign it. So in the delegate view, you are able to view the draft PDF. You can click that view draft, and then we'll generate the PDF, and it has a watermark draft on it, so you know that it's not the final version. But you can put your eyes on exactly what the PDF will look like. So you'll be confident, okay, I can now let my PI know that they can come in and certify this. Another update that we've made, and this slide is now out of date because there's a new feature. We've heard people that say, is there a way that I can, within the system, let the PI know that it's ready for them to come look at it? So now you have view draft, and in this view, it's kind of a grayed out button. Now the button will say notify PI. So if the PI is not certified it yet, you just click notify PI. We know who you're a delegate for. We have the contact for that. And the system will just send a message on your behalf to let the PI know it's ready for you to come and certify this. If the PI has already certified it and has made no changes, and you want to download the copy of that certified, it will say download PDF instead of notify PI. So the delegate will be able to collect the certified version of it as long as no changes have been made by the PI. The PI has altered it in any way, or anyone else has made an update and it hasn't been certified, then you have the option to notify the PI. Great, we got a question.
To that end, I'm going to ask the question for the delegates, is there any way to see whether something has been updated since the last approval?
If it has been updated since the last approval, then that button will change from download PDF to notify PI.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Thanks for that.
You bet. So you're ready to have the PI certify it. You click that button. We send a message to them. The PI comes in. They see that certification modal. They agree to it. And then they get the certified PDF that they're able to download and submit to Research.gov themselves. At that point, now that it's been certified, the delegate could also download that same certified copy. So if the delegate was the person that's managing it for all these people, once they all have it certified, the delegate could go in and gather all the PDFs themselves, if that was your workflow, and then submit it to Research.gov. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about ORCID. There was a question, what's the difference between an ORCID ID and a Research.gov ID? ORCID is a separate system from Research.gov. ORCID stands for Open Researcher and Contributor ID. It gives you several advantages. One is you can sign into SciENcv using ORCID, but ORCID is a way to get a persistent identifier. So individuals that publish in the scientific field, having a persistent identifier is a great help because it allows people to easily find your work, especially if you have a common name, helps you distinguish you from all the other Jane Does or John Smiths. It also is a profile system, so you can enter information about yourself and leverage that information to pre-populate the biographical sketch in SciENcv. And finally, ORCID is really great at pulling in citations from many different citation databases. In SciENcv, if you've not linked ORCID, you have a bibliography tool. It's integrated with PubMed, great for life sciences, but if your investigator is not a life scientist and publishes in other types of journals, here's where ORCID could really help. And do I have a question over here?
Sorry, this is about the delegate.
Sure, no problem.
Access.
No problem.
Sorry about that. And I might have missed something because there's a vacuum outside. But I talked to you yesterday, so I just wanted to share with the rest folks for administrators. But you're saying there, from what you said yesterday, there's going to be the opportunity for, when you're filling out a specific current and pending proposal, that you can leave things blank that will show up as a missing element, because right now for administrators, we have to put in filler, which is sort of we never like to put in filler because it can get missed. But I just wanted to have you speak to that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. The other thing I want to tease out of this is if there's some type of improvement or something that you think you could make better, let us know. And at the end of my presentation, I'm going to show you how to do that, where you can write into us. What she was just talking about is when you fill out the current and pending support form, we made SciENcv very helpful in that if you're filling out a new row for a proposal and you're working and adding that data in there, the system makes sure you fill in all the fields that you need to fill out and won't let you save it, right? It'll throw errors if you leave things blank. So what we've heard, not just today, but we've heard from other people is it would be great if I know I have some stuff that still needs to be filled in, but let me fill in the information I know and save it, and then let the PI fill it in again. So when we hear that from more than one person, we know we're like, hey, this is going to be a great improvement. It kind of validates what we're seeing. So it's a really great signal. And thankfully, you'll be glad to know we have that in the works, and it should be released very soon. So you'll be able to fill out the current and pending support form, and if you want to save it slightly incomplete, we'll allow you to do that, and instead of having to stick in filler text in certain fields, and we'll just leave a little warning icon there. So then when the PI comes to finish it off, I think in your example, it was sort of the man hours per year or something that the PI might have that information. That's what you want them to fill in. you'll be able to fill it out, and then we'll have a little warning icon so they'll know, I gotta fill in this missing information. So it's really great for us to kind of hear how we can make it work better for the workflows that you're going through in supporting your PIs. Okay, so we're back to ORCID. It's a separate identifier. You can register for it. It's free. You can fill out the profile. If you've linked it to SciENcv, and you can link your NSF, you can link ORCID all at the same time. You don't have to have one or the other. So if you have NSF and ORCID linked, we will add your ORCID identifier to the forms when you certify them. So it will automatically be added. We see, this person has linked ORCID, we'll add the identifier there. ORCID, you can fill out your profile. If you wish, when you create a new biographical sketch for your NSF application, you can say, use my ORCID account. I've filled out my profile there. If you do that, when we create the new document, we'll call ORCID, we'll pull over all that information, and we'll pre-populate the biographical sketch. So it's a huge time saver because you can leverage that information you already have. Once it's in SciENcv, you can edit it however you want. If you want to add some additional details, if you want to remove anything or edit it, it's fine. It's completely static at that point. It's not going to overwrite your ORCID account. It's your data to use and format it exactly how you want it for this application. And I also mentioned ORCID is fantastic. Once you start using your ORCID identifier, you start sending your identifier to publishers in your manuscript. ORCID is great. They look at many different citation databases. When it sees your ORCID identifier come out in one of these citations databases, it will automatically add that citation to your ORCID record. The last summer, myself, I published a paper. It was with an Elsevier journal. I gave them my ORCID ID. Everything was fine. 2 months later, I got a notification from ORCID saying, hey, your citation is ready. The publisher hadn't even notified me yet. So ORCID is really great at looking at these databases, and once it finds a new work with your ORCID identifier, it will add it to your ORCID profile. Then you can pick it and add it to your biographical sketch in SciENcv. All right, on my last slide here, SciENcv has been required for generating the biographical sketch as well as current pending support for NSF grant applications since last October. And I work at the NIH, and I'm here to tell you that NSF investigators are totally dunking on the NIH investigators because you have, over the last 3 months, over 110,000 current and pending other support documents generated, 78,000 biosketches that have been generated during that time, and only 12,000 for NIH biosketch. But within SciENcv, you can fill out either of these types. So once you filled out an NSF biographical sketch, you can then say, hey, put that into the NIH format. NIH is going to update their format to the common format that all federal agencies are now beginning to adopt. They're going to roll that out in next year, about a year from now, and then that'll be available in SciENcv as well. So a great benefit for filling out these forms in SciENcv is you can get the NSF format, NIH format, and we have several other agencies that have already been talking to us and have said that they're going to come into this ecosystem as well. So USDA and Department of Energy and a few other agencies will start adding their forms to SciENcv. So it's going to be great. You'll be able to fill out the forms for any of these agencies and easily move data from one to the other. So we have videos showing you how to use SciENcv. We have workshops. We periodically survey to ask how we can improve it. So I have a link on the left there to some of the outreach events. On the bottom of all of our web pages in SciENcv, there's a link where you can contact the help desk. Our help desk and Stephanie's help desk are in tight communication. So If you write into SciENcv, if you have an issue and it's kind of a policy-related question, we'll send it to Stephanie's desk, and their team will send it over to us if someone is having a technical issue with SciENcv. But we listen to everything that comes in. You know, don't think, well, someone's probably already said this. Send it in, because once we hear the same thing coming up a few times, we know we have a winner that we can make an improvement with. And finally, we have some detailed documentation on how to use all the different features in SciENcv. That's on our bookshelf, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So that's the end of my presentation. I think we have 5 minutes before lunch. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to address.
I just have a quick question, and this may or may not be related, but I have received a petition for research and related personal data. Is this something that is related to the NSF, or is it a different agency form?
Not familiar.
Yeah, that's not part of SciENcv, I don't believe.
We're not, no, that's not something for NSF.
Okay, thank you.
So this is sorry. Okay.
Go ahead. I'll take you first.
I'm sorry. This is probably not for this session, but I just had this question. So in DCL, when we have international collaboration, DCL by NSF, we have to submit biosketch of the international collaborator as well. So at that point, we became delegate for them. Is that fair, or do you expect us to submit their 2-page CV?
So that DCL will specify how those biosketches should be submitted and whether they need to be in the format from SciENcv, or if you need to submit them as a supplementary document. So those instructions would be in the Dear Colleague letter or program solicitation.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, over here.
Hi there. As a very early stage investigator, what would be the situation that I don't have current support and I need to generate the support document, and because I have no entries, it will simply not generate that said document?
Well, the proposal that you are preparing would be pending. You would include that.
So I should include the proposal?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all.